The Hulk has been a popular fixture in the MCU for years, but it wasn't until later films like Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame that the Hulk narrative was really let off the leash. Here's a rundown of the Hulk's hidden MCU trilogy. Hulk kicked things off in the MCU back in 2008 with The Incredible Hulk. The story wasn't exactly a bad one, but it wasn't a great one either, especially considering the caliber of so many of the Marvel movies that came after it. Part of the issue with Hulk's non-starter in the MCU was the fact that the movie picked up part way into the story and proceeded to go kinda nowhere. The movie introduces Banner after he's already become the Hulk, skipping right over his infamous gamma radiation incident in the process. Of course, that doesn't automatically equate to a negative. Captain Marvel also jumps right into the story as it's already developing. The difference, however, is that Carol Danvers' film circles back around to show how she got her superpowers. The Incredible Hulk simply charges ahead, assuming everybody already knows about the whole gamma radiation thing. Things still could have turned out alright if the film had ended in an appropriate place, but once again, it manages to drop the ball. While the climactic fight against Abomination is fun, the movie ends with Banner finally coming to terms with Hulk, which would have been great if Marvel didn't then retcon it in the Avengers. Sadly, a meandering storyline is just the beginning of the Incredible Hulk's problems. Another issue with the film is its excessively serious nature, which contrasts starkly against Iron Man's light and witty tone. Edward Norton's version of Bruce Banner is sulky, serious, and spends most of the film depressed. While the character is certainly an improvement over the version seen in Ang Lee's Hulk, which came out half a decade earlier, it just doesn't fit the MCU's tone. The movie just feels like it belongs in an entirely different universe than that of Tony Stark. Another complication that surfaced was the growing tension between Norton and Marvel Studios. That's not to say that Norton wasn't committed to the role. On the contrary, the Academy Award-nominated actor brought a lot of vision and depth to the character. But when the rubber hit the road, things just didn't fit well behind the scenes. In the ensuing fallout, the actor and the studio parted ways. Not on the most pleasant of terms, and the Hulk found himself at a crossroads. While characters like Spider-Man, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four have all had clear-cut rights issues over the years, many of which have been ironed out over time, one stubborn conundrum that has refused to resolve itself is the question of the Hulk's rights. Putting it as simply as possible, the rights to Hulk are kind of split between Marvel and Universal. Marvel Studios is allowed to use the Hulk character in its movies, a right they regained back in 2005 after Universal failed to pull the trigger on a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk. However, Universal still retains the right of first refusal for any solo Hulk film, which allows them to distribute any Hulk movie that's made. That complicating little concern, along with the fact that The Incredible Hulk performed relatively poorly at the box office, pushed Marvel to abandon any efforts to make another Hulk movie. When everything was taken into consideration, The Incredible Hulk 2 just wouldn't have been worth the time and effort it would have required. While his first MCU foray seemed to peter out after just one film, Hulk would eventually get a second chance. Distribution rights may have made for tough sledding with a Hulk solo movie, but over the following years, Marvel rehabilitated the Jade Giant by utilizing him as an effective and interesting supporting character. This began with casting Mark Ruffalo in the role, a wise move considering the actor instantly won over the hearts of the fans when he arrived on screen. Banner's MCU storyline was also largely reset. He was back to not getting along with the Hulk and was clearly scared of letting the other guy get in the driver's seat. The Banner-Hulk combo made a big splash with audiences in the Avengers, leading to the decision to have Banner pop in for a quick counseling session with Tony Stark in the post-credit scene for Iron Man 3. Banner and Hulk showed up again in the second Avengers film, in which they both play a major role in bringing down Ultron's apocalyptic threat. At that point in the franchise, however, Hulk and Banner were still just supporting players in an ever-growing universe. It wasn't until 2017 that Ruffalo and Marvel boss Kevin Feige had sat down to chat about Hulk's future in the MCU. It was during this conversation that Ruffalo and Feige decided to give the Hulk his own so-called special trilogy. Feige and Ruffalo's conversation ended up pinning Hulk down to a single storyline that would be split up over the course of 3 other characters' movies. This plan sidestepped any distribution issues by not casting Hulk as a main character in any of the 3 films, but it still allowed for plenty of time to create a character arc with a meaningful impact, something Hulk hadn't experienced up to that point. Things kick off at the very end of Age of Ultron, with Hulk flying off in the Avengers Quinjet. From there, he remains safely tucked away in space as the events of a few more Marvel films pass by, including Captain America: Civil War, in which his old nemesis, General Thaddeus Ross, makes a point of questioning Hulk's whereabouts.
The Avengers were formed to make the world a safer place. I feel we've done that. Tell me, Captain, do you know where Thor and Banner are right now?
The Infinity Saga doesn't find Hulk in the flesh again until Thor Ragnarok, in which the Lord of Thunder discovers his friend from work on the garbage planet of Sakaar. Hulk's presence throughout Ragnarok is the perfect complement to Thor's story, but at the same time, it also serves as a vehicle to propel his own story through the first third of its 3-movie arc. After their electrifying first encounter in the Grandmaster's arena, the two friends have a long, enlightening, and downright hilarious conversation that demonstrates a new side to Hulk's character. While he's still very rough around the edges, the big guy has clearly matured during his time on Sakaar. Over the course of their conversation, Hulk speaks in fuller sentences and reveals his attachment to his new Banner-free life.
Banner's friend.
I don't even like Banner. I'm into numbers and science and stuff.
Nevertheless, shortly afterward, the pair visit the Quinjet, where a recording of Natasha Romanoff helps Banner regain control for the first time in years. From there, the Good Doctor joins the newly minted team of Revengers and heads off to Asgard to help Thor unseat Hela. It's on Asgard that the first portion of the character's trilogy concludes. In a movie filled with Hulk smashing, arguably the most heroic moment comes when Banner willingly allows Hulk to regain control, knowing he may never come back, in order to save Asgard. The film ends with the character still hulked out and living on the refugee ship with the surviving Asgardians, headed for Earth. Things went quickly south for the Hulk during Infinity War, which was released the following year. The third Avengers film opens with the Asgardian ship already overrun by Thanos, and Hulk ends up right in the thick of it only a few minutes into the film. But this time, things don't go according to plan, and the Green Machine ends up down for the count after taking a few blows from a savvy opponent. At that point, Heimdall uses the last of his strength to summon the Bifrost and send Hulk hurtling back to Earth, where he arrives in NYC back in Banner form. From then on, Hulk flat out refuses to join the fight. Fans believed that Hulk would play some part in the fight against Thanos, but the deliberate withdrawal of the character after Infinity War's opening scene ultimately makes his arc that much more interesting. The truth is, Hulk had been little more than a pawn in the Avengers' plans up until this point, often only whipped out to save the day when danger was about to strike. His time on Sakaar gave him a taste of freedom, and the big guy liked it. Co-director Joe Russo explains it best.
People have speculated whether there was some fear on the Hulk's part about having to face Thanos again, but I think ultimately what it is that he's tired of playing hero.
In the lead-up to Infinity War, Mark Ruffalo revealed in an interview that Bruce Banner and the Hulk were headed for a showdown. While the hints seemed to point toward a violent conclusion, the rest of Hulk's 3-part story actually ended up playing out in an unexpected way. For a character who was so often used as an explosive plot device or as a way to entertain smash-happy fans, the pivotal moment for Hulk and Banner ended up being relatively quiet. Not only that, but it actually took place off-screen. When audiences caught up with Hulk again in Endgame, they instead ran into Professor Hulk. The long-awaited union of the two personalities was the result of 18 months of lab-based gamma exposure, leading to the perfect combination of Banner and Hulk.
I put the brains and the brawn together, and now look at me. Best of both worlds.
While the transformative scene itself was originally meant for Infinity War, it ended up being the perfect way to launch the third and final part of the Hulk's arc. As Endgame plays out, so too does the third and final portion of Hulk's 3-part story arc. Looking back, it's hard to believe that this is the same character who, just a handful of years earlier, had maintained a successful gladiatorial career half a galaxy away. By Endgame, Hulk is refined, thoughtful, and caring. He even watches his past self smashing his way through New York City and declares it gratuitous. The Banner part of his intellect allows the Hulk character to finally interact as a normal adult human being. He's instrumental in convincing Thor to stop sulking and pick up Stormbreaker for another go at Thanos. He's also able to process the loss of Black Widow without causing much physical damage. Most important of all, however, it's Hulk who tracks down the Ancient One and convinces her to surrender the Time Stone. Consequently, Hulk is also the only one shown the negative effects that stealing the Infinity Stones would have on time. This places the responsibility squarely in his hands to make sure everything gets put back in place after the Avengers' victory. While the third portion of Hulk's 3-movie arc is packed with some great stuff, there's one thing that stands out from all the rest: reversing Thanos' snap. Ultimately, it ends up being Hulk, and Hulk alone, who wields Stark's Infinity Gauntlet and brings everyone back from the dead. It's an utterly selfless move, and one that Hulk wouldn't have volunteered for at any other time in his life. The added fact that the radiation emanating from the gauntlet is mostly gamma lends a pleasing touch of destiny to the act as he takes the gauntlet and snaps his fingers. To put it in his own words, it's like he was made for this. It's a triumphant and breathtakingly worthy way to end a story that began all the way back at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.